Welcome to the African Utility Week studio. I'm Nicolette Pomba van Zyl, editor of ESI Africa. Today I am speaking to David Onyango, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Kisumu Water and Sewerage Corporation in Kenya. Welcome, David.
Thank you very much.
David, we're going to be talking about water, which is so important. It is a resource that we don't have any other replacement for. And as you know, in Cape Town, we're experiencing a terrible drought. So in terms of managing water's resources, maintenance of our infrastructure is so important. What can you share with us that is happening in your corporation?
Thank you very much. Your observation is right. Water is very important, and water is a resource which is finite, and therefore we must manage it well. And a responsibility of a water company is to make sure that water is supplied at the right pressure, in the right quantity, and of course the right quality. And for us in Kisumu, we are very privileged that we are by a lakeside, so the quantity of water available is enough, and therefore we are able to constantly supply water in adequate quantity and adequate pressure, and of course of good quality acceptable to health authorities. So to maintain the systems requires of course various skill sets. A water utility, you know, like ours, takes water from the lake, treats it, distributes it, collects money from those who have received the service, collect the wastewater, treat the wastewater and return it to the environment as good water. So we require different skill sets. We require engineers, we require chemists, we require finance people, we require marketers, and so on and so forth. So that requires concerted efforts, and as a CEO I must manage all these various actors to ensure that the system is well managed, is maintained well, and is able to deliver on its mission, which is to deliver quality water to the people of Kisumu at all times.
So you would say that your utility has a specific plan in place for that maintenance of that infrastructure?
Yes, there are various components. If you look at a water supply system, you have the part that takes water away from the source and treats it. That's one component. So you must make sure that component is well maintained. There are pumps there, there are motors there, there are the normal tanks. They must be cleaned from time to time, make sure they are not leaking. The pumps must be maintained, make sure that they continue to run. And then you have the transmission, where you take the water which is already treated and you take it to the population centers. So transmission lines, which are big pipelines, one must make sure that they are not leaking. And where they are old, then you can prevent their failure by scheduling their maintenance.
And of course, a component of that is skills development and training.
Yes.
So what would you say is an important aspect of training in a water utility?
Well, let's look at the philosophy behind the maintenance. You can choose to the posture you can choose to take is that you wait until a component fails. So that's reactive maintenance.
Right.
You can do preventive maintenance, where you predict that a component is going to fail after maybe so many hours of a length of time of use, and therefore you store this critical component to make sure that the moment those number of hours are reached, then you are able to replace this component. So the philosophy we have adopted as a company, we look at the criticality to the mission of the component. If the failure of the component would lead us to loss of funds or supply disruption, then we prevent it from happening. So we decide it's going to run for 5,000 hours. On the just before the 5,000 hours reach, then we replace it. There are components that their failure are not critical to the mission, in the sense that you already built redundancies in the system. So you can take that system out without necessarily disrupting the supply. Those ones we allow them to run to failure, and that way we then save money. To do that requires skills. You must have people who are knowledgeable, particularly in areas which are emerging. There are new areas which are emerging because utilities are also moving with the times. Technology has gotten into water supply, so you have more computer people are in there. There are more people who understand new equipment like leak detection equipment to make sure that if there's a failure, they can predict this, or they can see it using geographical information systems. So these guys require to be trained so that they are abreast the development of technology.
Right.
So in Kisumu Water, we have at least 5 training days for every staff every year. Each staff must attend 5 training days to make sure that you are constantly abreast of what is happening in the sector.
That's so important, and this brings me then to look at the question around water governance,
Yes.
which is something that you presented on here at African Utility Week. What were the key points that you were sharing with the people attending that session?
Water governance is very important. In fact, if you look at the whole of the African scene, there are a number of issues that concern us as practitioners in water. And water governance is a big problem. Problems in water center around corruption, lack of proper institutional structures, lack of capacity, human capacity, lack of money for investment to expand the or maintain the infrastructure. And therefore, there is need to look at these issues and look at them broadly around 4 themes. One is political. Make sure that people have the right to participate and are responsible for deciding on how to use the resource.
Yeah.
2 is economic. Recognize that water is an economic good, and therefore its allocation should be guided by the best use. 3 is social. Ensure that the people, the various classes of people are served equitably, because we have different social groups. You have the poor, the rich, the middle class, and they all have competing demands. Make sure that their issues are addressed. And finally, ensure that the environment and the ecosystem is well looked after. Because for sustainable reasons, if we destroy the ecosystem, then we damage the world. So those are the issues that we need to deal with to ensure that water is governed properly.
I think that's also brings me to the topic around the water, energy, food nexus, which is something we were talking about a little bit earlier. And this is a theme that is going to be developed in years to come. So tell me, what are your predictions then for the water, energy, food nexus, or just the water sector for 2018?
Looking at the way the African Utility Week has moved, I think this is my 3rd Water Utility Week forum that I've attended. I see it growing and becoming better and better, and the themes that are being developed for discussion are really themes that are relevant to the challenges that are out there in the field. And water, energy, and food are very critical. And we must begin to think seriously how we can connect as policymakers, as leaders in the continent, how to address this issue. Because without water, then you can't have energy. Without energy, you can't have water.
Exactly.
But without water also, you can't have food. So all this connection, we must begin to see who is the best placed to play what role in all this, so that the growth of the connection is well defined, and the players are known, and they can play their rightful role in really defining how the nexus is going to work out.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us, David.
It's my pleasure to be here. I've enjoyed the time in Cape Town. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you for watching. I'm Nicolette Pomba-Van-Zyl, editor of ESI Africa, speaking with David Onyango from Kenya. Thank you for watching.